Hi, it is Hot Chat time. I am Sharon Pender, President and CEO of the Capital Region Minority Supplier Development Council and the operator of the U.S. Department of Commerce MBDA Center, DC, and the Federal Procurement Center. Welcome to Hot Chat Podcast Minority Business Connection with our distinguished minority business entrepreneur, April Richardson, Esquire, president and co founder of DC Sweet Potato Cakes. Today, April will share with us how her bakery had to pivot during the pandemic, how she and her staff have been coping with the new ventures she has underway. This is a continuation of our special series featuring minority businesses, the Untold Stories of minority businesses and their survival during the pandemic. It's our mission to continue to feature dynamic one on one conversations with minority business owners, CEOs, supply diversity professionals, and procurement leaders from around the leading companies across this region via our Hot Chat discussions. We will spotlight their successes, their challenges, resources, and opportunities that exist for our vast network of minority businesses and our corporate partners who share our vision to help drive equity and economic development across this country. More importantly, stay tuned and feel free to share your thoughts on this topic and any other topics that may be of interest. You can find us at www.crmsdccares.com and all of our social media channels at CRMSDC. Now, before we get on to this conversation, I am so sure, I promise you, that you are going to enjoy and it will enrich your life with April. I have to take a pause for the cause to talk about our sponsors, and if we can do that. Our title sponsors, Exelon, BGE and Exelon Company, and so is Pepco and Exelon Company, Southwest Airlines, the Hilton, our premier minority business partner, that's AMCUS, Collaborations Redefined, Capital One, CompuGame, JDC Events, SB and Company, and Shroud Priest. So we're going to talk about other sponsors at the end, but let me first bring on this phenomenal woman, and her name is April Richardson. Hello, April.
Glad to be here.
Good, good. I want to tell folks about you, a little bit about you before we get into our conversation, if you don't mind.
Sure, please.
April N. Richardson Esquire is a single mother to her awesome son. I just love this intro, right? An attorney and an entrepreneur. And I really want to talk about that because we know super women, but this dual thing, we got to get into that. Recently, she served as legal counsel to the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, or FDIC, Financial Crimes Unit, where she assisted with closing failing banks. She now serves as Deputy Chief Investigative Counsel with the Department of Treasury, Special Inspector General for the Troubled Asset Relief Program, where she oversees and supports the criminal investigations of bank executives. This sounds like a TV series, but I'm just saying. Ms. Richardson served as the lead prosecutor for the Mortgage Foreclosure Fraud Division in Prince George's County. Under her leadership, the division was named Best Practice by the Governor's Office and by the Department of Justice. Ms. Richardson is a subject matter expert on real estate, mortgage banking, business fraud. She provides training to some of our elite agencies such as Secret Service, Department of Justice, FBI, and many others. Chandra Rhimes know about you. That's what all I want to know. Does Carolyn know about you? That's all I want to know. But she likes to get her hands in stuff because she's an entrepreneur. And she's president of Food Opportunity LLC, a company that promotes the ownership of manufacturing food companies for women and minority business. Under the company, she owns DC Sweet Potato Cake brand and Baked in Baltimore. And I was there with the opening of that retail manufacturing bakery. In less than a year of owning the company, she and her team turned a struggling bakery into one of the fastest growing commercial bakeries in the DC area. She has attracted national contracts at Starbucks, Safeway, Wegmans, Nordstrom, and QVC. And I bought it off of QVC myself. She's appeared in the Post, Forbes, the Baltimore Sun, Bloomberg, Fox 5, CNN, BBC, BET Centric, and QVC. She debuted over 1,400 cakes in 8 minutes. That was an awesome, awesome thing. Just a moment, please. Okay. So I had to exhale.
That's a lot.
I had to exhale because my head is spinning just, just reading that. But I thought, and normally I will cut bios, but I thought it was real important to set that as groundwork because it becomes an understanding of who you are. Now, I met you many years ago. People may or may not know that you're a native Baltimorean.
That's right.
Okay, grew up. Tell us, and folks who are from Baltimore who listening to this particular podcast, tell them what part of Baltimore you grew up in.
I grew up across from Mondawmin Mall
Mm-hmm.
on Gwynns Falls Parkway, and you and your mom's known me since I was a little girl.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
most people don't know that, and it's so funny because it goes, "I want you to meet Sharon Pender." I'm like, please introduce me.
I know people don't know that we went to the same church.
That's
on
right.
North
On
Avenue.
North Avenue, we did.
Absolutely.
And that was the foundation for everything.
And so this homegirl has gone wild in the sense that you've cultivated what your craft and extended your vision and the creation that you are. And I joke to see, and I said I was joking when I said, does Chandra Rhines know about you? But I'm telling you, I believe that you would make a great TV series. I mean, come on. So tell us,
yes,
how you went from native Baltimorean. Where'd you go to law school?
So
Well,
I went
all,
to,
let me ask the Baltimore question. Where'd you go to high school?
I was going to say, I went to the #1 high school in the
Oh
world,
gosh.
Baltimore City College. Don't you know in Baltimore, that is like the #1 school? There's all sorts of arguments out there, but
Yeah.
it's the truth. I wouldn't lie to your audience.
But my husband, my son, my godson all went to City College. So I am
You
by
have
default.
beautiful people surrounding you. You know,
Absolutely.
and it's so funny that you said that because in Baltimore, it's all about the high school and
Mm-hmm.
it's all about which church you go to, right? High
Right,
school and
right.
church. But it's funny because that, you and I met when I was a little girl and I used to go to Sunday school. And for
Mm-hmm.
those of people who don't know, your mom was my Sunday school teacher.
Right.
And
That's
when
right.
people ask, how is it that you're able to do all these things? How is it you made it out of Baltimore? And I'm like, it really started in church when
Mm-hmm.
people would ghost whisper to me and tell me that I was different, that I was unique, that I was special, and that they held me accountable to living and to doing things in an excellent way. It was the usher board, it was the choir, it was my Sunday school teachers who
That's
every
right.
Sunday they checked in and they wanted to see my report card.
That's right. That's right. And I tell
Right?
people that my ability to get up and stand in front of an audience was Children's Day,
Children's Day,
Easter, Christmas program where
having
you
to
had a
recite,
part.
and you got to get it right.
That's right. I know. It's like the end of
Yeah.
the world.
Yeah,
But
so that
but
that has everything
yeah,
to do with
yeah.
what the foundation was. It was just that people saw and they whispered into me and they held me accountable. And I don't think that we're getting that anymore, right? We're just not like the elders in our church meant everything to us, and disappointment on in their minds. It was not anything that we would ever do. Them giving us $1 for being on good behavior after church,
Mhm.
making sure that we studied our parts, making sure that we were prepared. So that
That's right.
preparation and that ability to say I can do anything because they told me to, that was ingrained in me because people told me that I could and they held me to that higher standard. And when I look around at my peers that perform lower than what they can, I'm like, well, who goes whispered to you? And they're like, no one. No one. And to me, that's the obligation of seniors. That's the
Mm.
obligation of our generation to make sure that we are telling children that they are capable, not that we're changing their lives, but if we all ghost whisper to children, it becomes a message that overtakes them and it really establishes a stronger foundation because it's going to override all the other negative voices that are in their head. So we have to continue to do that. Just tell children that
Absolutely.
they're capable. House school. Just keep drilling that into them because that it was drilled into me. So I was afraid to disappoint. But I also, quickly learned that I'm just more than one title, right? I could be anything because they told me that I could be.
And you are
Are
everything.
everything. Try to be at least.
Absolutely. So law school, where were you? Where'd you
So
go?
so I went to George Washington in DC, and then I went to Georgetown for grad school, and I went to University of Maryland Eastern Shore. I had to get my HBCU in there
Very
for
good.
undergrad.
Oh, I
So
did
all
not
of this,
realize that. I did
yeah.
not
So
realize
I'm a
that you
local.
went to UMES.
I did. Yep.
Oh,
And
okay.
that was again because a woman heard me speaking. I was in Top Teens of America or something like that.
Wow.
And she heard me speaking somewhere and she goes, "Where are you going to college?" And I was like, "Well, I'm not sure." And she goes, "You're going to University of Maryland Eastern Shore. I teach there." And then she goes, "I'm going to ask you again, where are you going for college?" I said, "University of Maryland." "Where is it?" "Eastern Shore." That's how I got there. Again,
That is interesting.
that was it.
I sat on the board there for 10 years.
No way.
Yeah, I did. I did. It was a great experience. So
I
I know,
didn't know that.
yeah. So
I was there
wow.
with Dr. Heitch.
Oh, okay. I got there after that. I was
Yeah.
there with Dr. Thompson. And
Yes, I was
so,
gone by then. Yep.
okay. And so our interaction continues, right? And so,
That's fantastic.
absolutely. So, listen, let's talk about DC sweet potato cakes.
Yes,
But
please.
let's talk about, so you left law school
Yeah.
and started this lucrative career in law
Yeah. Yes.
and the kind of things that you're doing. But
Yes.
how did you make that transition, and how do you keep all those balls in the air between the what you do
Yeah.
as an attorney, and then what you've decided to do as an entrepreneur? Tell me about those
Yeah.
crossroads.
That's a good question. So when I started practicing law, I wanted to go into an area that was kind of emerging, and this is like 2001,
Mhm.
2002. And I went back to GW and said I want to get into something different, and they said real estate. So I said that sounds good. But keep in mind, my personality is that I stay open to opportunity. So I don't plan anything out. I'm just always on the look for receiving what comes my way and then discerning whether it's for me to do, um, regardless of how much it costs or how much it doesn't pay. And my college sent me to a foreclosure law firm. I had no idea what foreclosures were. I didn't understand. But when I got to that firm, I quickly understood the impact that foreclosures had on people of low income capabilities and Black people, and I didn't like it. So I decided that I would learn everything that I could about foreclosures in order to protect homeowners. So then I stayed in that industry for a while, and then I decided to gather all of that data and take it to some organizations to say, hey, look at what's happening. Black houses are being foreclosed at greater rates than anyone else. We're just taking our homes, and there's nothing that we can do about it, and no one listened. So I decided to hang a shingle and start fighting against banks and started fighting against builders and foreclosure law firms. And every case I lost, every single one,
Wow.
until the governor, I think it was Governor O'Malley at the time, heard about my work and decided that he wanted to start a prosecution unit, because now we're looking at the mortgage meltdown right before around
Okay.
2006, when things were a little weird, but no one really understood why. But they knew that there was a skinny Black girl with big hair that was going around saying the banks are stealing houses, right? And no one
Wow.
listened to me, nor judges. But Martin O'Malley, Glenn Ivey, and he was a Delegate Doyle Neiman, heard what I was saying, and they said, "Can you come to Prince George's County and prosecute mortgage and real estate fraud?" And I said, "Sure," because at the time, this is very important to know, Maryland had ranked third in the nation for mortgage fraud. No one knew that.
Wow.
California was first, and Florida was second, and here goes
Little
Maryland,
old Maryland.
middle of Maryland. And while I was prosecuting, the first thing that I learned is that people had all of these businesses, and there's a point here, and they were so focused on not saving on they were so focused on saving their homes that they couldn't focus on their businesses. So here I have these beautiful men and women of color in Prince George's County. They're losing their houses, and now their heads are in the sands, and they're going to lose their business. And I said, not on my watch. So I would work with them as victims during the daytime, and then at night I would help them turn their companies around.
Mm-hmm.
because I'm like, we can't lose a house and a business. And it was through that work is when my current company, DC Sweet Potato Cake, came to me because they were failing along with everybody else's company at the time. And I gave them so much information to help turn themselves around, but they couldn't because their head was in the sand. And it was by the time that they were on their third eviction, that I had to stop the eviction. I called the owner of the building and said, listen, I can turn this company around. Can you stop the eviction? And she said, how and why and who are you? And I said, you could really look me up. There's a little bit of media on me. I promise you I'm well vetted. And the woman said, I will stop the eviction if you come on board as an owner of the company. If not, the company has to go. And
Wow.
my business partner till this day, he goes, please. And I'm thinking, I'm a single mom. I'm raising my child. I'm prosecuting. I'm helping people's companies. And now I got a whole bakery. I said, absolutely yes.
Okay.
and and but before I said yes, I asked my son, who was in elementary school, was it okay for me to do this? And all my son cared about was how many cupcakes in a week does he get to eat? I said two. He said 2.5 deal. And that's how I became president of the company.
Wow. What a fantastic story. And what year was that, April? Year back.
That was in 2000. I want to say 2009.
Okay.
2009. But what it did was it sparked in me um, my accountability to people because we have all of these beautiful degrees, but we have all this time to do silly stuff instead of just really taking the time that we have and pouring it into people where it can be helpful. So I took
Mhm.
my personal time and poured into business owners in order to make sure that they were okay and that their families would survive this crisis. And I continued that work till this day.
So what was, as a newly acquired business owner in baked goods, and I don't know
Yeah,
if, if that was even an interest of yours at the particular
no,
time
it's a,
frame. So I'm not going to ask you, can you bake? But at that point in time, how do you, from a business perspective, because people think about acquisitions all the time. And
yeah,
so what were the steps that you took? And I know that you helped them recover, but what was the steps that you took
yeah,
that helped you in terms of making sure that you ramped up quickly as
sure.
a business owner?
Sure, sure. So one, I'm going through another acquisition right now. So this will be my third bakery acquisition. I should be closing in 30 days. And the way that this acquisition is completely different than the one that I did when I initially took over the company. Yes, I can bake. Thank you very much.
Hmm.
But I couldn't at the time because number one, if you're going to be part of a company, you have to roll up your sleeves and learn every single part of that company because number one, your employees won't respect you. And number two, you won't have any idea on terms of how to operate. But the first thing that I did with the company when I acquired it, I didn't even have a chance to look at the P&Ls because they didn't have P&Ls. So I had to base it on what the product was doing in the market and who the people were as owners. Because
Okay.
I figured if I could like the people, then they would be open to receiving a different process. So before I said yes to the company, I lined everybody up into the company and I said, if I take over this company, everything that I ask you to do, I need you to say yes to, even if you think it's nuts. And if anyone says no, then I'm not going to be part of the company. And everybody said yes. The one person that hesitated, he was fired the next day.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
Now, I had to number one make sure that the company had a product that the market wanted, and it was evident because people love the product. And then I had to figure out if the product was able to be scaled. So after I got the company, I looked at the clients to see if the clients were happy, and they were not happy. So I interviewed the clients. Why aren't you happy? Because everything's late. And
Okay.
so that allowed me to take a look at ways that we could keep our clients happy, but also processes for improvement internally. So that first year, I did not focus on profit. I focused on processes with the understanding that profits would follow if we had stronger processes. So I gave away a lot of cake that year. I
Hmm.
think that year we probably only made about $75,000 in revenue
Hmm.
with 4 people working. And I told them, I said, well, this is the most y'all ever made. Y'all made 73,000 last year with me. You made 75. But once I got them into the habit of understanding why they did what they did, meaning why their blending dry ingredients together and wet ingredients. There was also an education component, because I understood that everyone was just baking from their own experiences as a baker. No one was trained. Training, customer service, retention, and product stability, and then figuring out how we could kind of branch out into other contracts. But first, we had to
Mhm.
take care of the people that we had. So that was the first thing that we had to do. And that
Sure.
was tough.
It was tough.
It was tough. It was tough because you were fighting against bad habits,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
You were fighting against, well, this is how we always do it. And I said, well, you said yes. So I'm going to hold you accountable for you saying yes, that whatever it is that I asked you to do, you would do differently. And in the end, you're going to thank me. And it wasn't until about maybe 14 months into the process when they started to get it, right?
Okay.
Now
Is
through
that
acquisition,
I
I'm
was gonna
sorry.
say, at that point, did you see then profitability was impacted at that point? And at
Yeah.
what point did you start to introduce other products to the product line?
Yeah, so in order for the company to grow, they had to understand that you couldn't be a one-trick pony, right?
Mhm.
So you're going to use all of your capital in one product. So it's not that the product was bad, it's just that you had to have other products to support it, because using sweet potatoes as your number one ingredient could do a couple things. One, it could isolate your market, right?
Mhm.
Number two, you become too nichey. But number three, you are also excluding the opportunity to branch out. So we took our we took our staple recipe and started creating other product profile
Ah,
tastes from
okay.
that. So you'll have the original DC sweet potato cake, which is the original sweet potato cake with the vanilla pecan cream cheese frosting. Then now you got a red velvet because that was the number one flavor for products at the time. Well,
Okay.
now you got chocolate sweet potato. Now you got a rum sweet potato. Now you got a bourbon sweet potato. And for Whole Foods, you got a purple sweet potato cake, right? So once they started seeing that, then they started understanding, oh, you mean you're not going to take away our number one product? You're going to add
That's
value to
it.
it. So it's also a
Okay.
trust, right? Here you have this girl who doesn't bake, who's, coming up with all these great ideas. But then once I show them how the value proposition works and how it increases their personal bottom lines in terms of what they're bringing home, then it started to click. Now, normally with acquisitions, it's done a little bit differently. You don't have a whole year to get that in, right?
Mhm.
You're making a decision based off of a P&L. You're making a decision based off of due diligence. My due diligence was working in the company for a year before I could actually see the company,
How did you
which was
do
risk.
that and still work at your craft in terms of law?
Late nights and early mornings.
Mm.
So I would literally, my lunch break, I never took a lunch break. So lunch break, I'm on the phone talking to suppliers and vendors. In the morning before I checked into the state's attorney's office, I stopped into the bakery for 2 hours. At night, after work, my son and I would go to the bakery. We would do homework there. We would eat lunch. We would eat dinner there, and we work there. Saturdays and Sundays, 10-hour days, going through paperwork, looking at processes, trying to kind of find a different way to do business. And then Mondays, I think it was like Mondays during my lunch break were my days when I would call around different companies to see if they would be interested in doing business with us.
And as impressive as you are, you end up in Starbucks and
Yes.
Wegmans and all those places. And was that during your first year? How long did
That wasn't during my first year. Wegmans was during my second or third year. I think Starbucks came 4 years later, maybe, because we weren't ready for those types of opportunities. I just had us I had my team with a mindset that we were primed for growth. And each year I told them we're going to do something bigger. And then one day I said, well, this is going to be the biggest year. And they said, well, what does that
Mhm.
mean? I'm like, I'll figure it out and I'll let you know. Because I didn't know, right? Because it's like
Right.
a business plan. A business plan is only going to tell you what you think you know, but the last page of your business plan should be blank because that's where all the opportunities come, right? You
Mhm.
don't know. You aren't able to project what's going to happen. And it's always on the last page of that blank business plan where all of these opportunities have come. I will tell you that we're going to do more business, but I'm not going to tell you how and with whom because I don't know yet. I just
Mhm.
knew that a company should not tell us no because we have a stellar product. A company should not tell us no because we have great people that work here. We're reliable and we're on time and we're consistent. Why
Mm-hmm.
would a company not tell us yes, right? And what we were competing with was also important. We were not competing with Hostess. We were not competing with
Mm-hmm.
Georgetown cupcakes. We did not have a vanilla cupcake. We had something of value that could be in addition to, and it did not require taking anyone off the shelf. That's a whole different value proposition. If you come into the bakery game saying, I got the best cheesecake in the world, yeah, well, it's not about best. It's about what is the value and who do they have to remove off the shelf in order to put your brand new product in. And I'm going to tell you now, most buyers are going to hesitate because they're doing things based off of historical numbers and they're not going to take a bet on a brand new product unless they have some kind of special program for minorities, right? And then even then, it's, in my opinion, it's a short life that you live under those programs. And that was a strategic decision that we did not go in under any minority programs. We went in as a bakery because I did not want to be in a special category because I understood that the lifespan when you went in was super short. And it was almost like we were checking, not us, but other companies that were brown and women owned, they were checking boxes at the time. And their life was only 6 months on the shelf. We've been in Starbucks now, I think, since I want to say 2016, maybe
Okay.
2016. Same with Wegmans since 2015, Nordstrom 2013 maybe. So we've had some long-term relationships with our customers.
I love, 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 and admire your brilliance. So that was in 2009, and you're working
Yeah.
nonstop 24/7. I'm going to come back to my question of what do you do for April in the self-care thing, but what happens? And now your son is growing up,
Yes.
and you've moved forward. You're you have created this brand, and this brand is associated with you, and all these positive things. I mean, I remember seeing you out in Merriweather, and so
I know.
you still even 10 years beyond the start of acquiring that company,
Yeah,
you are still rolling your sleeves up, and doing things, and
I
you're
do.
on the ground. I mean, you're on the ground, and so, I mean, just phenomenal. These nuggets, and what we're hearing today, ladies and gentlemen, is real, and it has worked. And so, I'm just so glad you're kind of sharing it. I want to fast forward a bit,
Sure.
and you woke up. You said Happy New Year, January 1st, 2020.
Yes, we did.
Right, and the visionary that you are, you had plans for, this was 2020. Because I remember in 2019 we were saying things. I forgot it was supposed to be the year of the woman, and
It was
2020
it.
and it was going to be all that, and then March hit.
Yes,
Oh, and then I also want to come back because when you open up that bakery, because I want to talk about the aspects of your business. But I want to talk about the pandemic, but I want to come back and talk about the
sure.
bakery. And so it's March, and the pandemic hits. So what is April Richardson thinking, and what does April Richardson do at that point?
So at that time, I had just built the first food hall in Prince George's County. I just opened an 8,900 square foot food hall in Prince George's County where I developed 7 different restaurateurs and food concepts to go along with that. And when March hit, um, the first thing that I said was, we're going to be fine because we've already seen really dark days with our company. For companies that have never seen dark days, they're not going to know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
We've had enough dark days in order to deal with whatever is coming our way. That was the first thing. It's kind of like when people who grew up in poverty and they're super and they amass wealth and they're not afraid of poverty because they've been there before. But people who have always been wealthy, poverty is the biggest fear, crippling to the point where it drives them to suicide. For me, I'm like, we'll get through it because for me, we decided that it would be a conscious choice that we would. We weren't sure how, but we made a conscious choice that we would. So I picked up the phone, called the team, and said, we don't know what we're up against, but who cares?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's
Very
how we
good.
did it.
Very good.
First thing was to be mentally tough.
Okay.
because no one had an answer. And I felt comfort in knowing that no one else had the answer because it wasn't just us by ourselves. Now, if it was just me, then I would be panicking and it would be a whole different, April that's having this conversation. But once I recognized that this was worldwide, I said, it's nothing that I can do in order to do better or be better, except be mentally tough. Because being an entrepreneur already is such an emotional type of war that you have internally. It looks like depression, it looks like anxiety, it looks like ADD. And now this is something that we're not even ready for, but we're going to get ready for it. So that was the attitude that I had. So I said, bring it. That's exactly what I said. Oh, and it was broad.
In what way?
Supply chain issues,
Okay.
right? We never recognize how dependent or codependent we are on our foreign counterparts. We
Mm.
couldn't even get containers in to put
Oh,
our product in. We couldn't get ingredients at one point. So to make it easier on the staff, I shut down our retail part and only focused on our manufacturing part. But even after we were able to get our ingredients, which took months, then it became an issue of I can't even find a truck that will take all of the things that we baked up to Delaware to the grocery stores, right? So that they can distribute to different stores. But even after we resolve that issue, so first we have an ingredient issue, can't buy those, resolved. Can't find a truck, resolved. Then when we get to the grocery stores, they turn trucks back
oh
because
my.
they were only looking for certain. They needed space for
Safety.
yeah, for toilet paper,
Yeah, and the paper towels and the
paper towels,
yeah,
and the
right.
hand sanitizers that never came. So here I come with the truck coming back down the street with 10,000 products, putting it back in our freezer. Real talk.
Wow.
Wow was the wow was the answer. So I said, all right, e-commerce has to be the answer. So it just so happened that we were on QVC years before, and a broker from QVC had saw me in the news, and he goes, "You're exactly what I've been looking for. You have talent, you have product. My wife said that you got to get her back on air," and I said, "We'll go back on there if we can get the numbers that we need, and if we can hit the certain numbers." And he goes, "Listen, I don't make guarantees, but I think I can make this work." And I said, "We'll give you a chance to make it work."
Hmm.
And we went on QVC probably, I don't know, maybe September. And I think we thought initially we sold 2,000 products, but it ended up being 4,000 products. And that was a big show. Then we went back on, then we went back on, then we went back on. And then our last show 2 months ago, we sold $90,000 of products in 7 minutes, right?
That's
That's a
incredible.
whole lot of money to make in bakery, but it wasn't easy. Um, Trying to get, because at the time of COVID, then we were also dealing with the Black Lives Matter movement, right?
Hmm.
And we were getting opportunities from stores that had never returned our call because of the optics of the Black Lives movement. And I had
Hmm.
to tell my team, those aren't deals that we are going to take. We are not a poster child for brownness. They should have reached out to us. They should have answered our emails years ago. Heck, 6 months before COVID, and they didn't. So my team was not really understanding why I would turn down business from major companies because I started with the mantra that we only do business with people that like us and we like them back. Because it's on those dark days when they will remember exactly who you are and they'll tell you that we won't let you fail. Our partners like Wegmans, our Starbucks partner, Howard Schultz, we spoke during the pandemic to see how I am and how my company is doing. What president and major CEO of a company like Starbucks is going to make that call?
That's pretty impressive.
Right, to see if we're okay. Our partners at Safeway called and said, April, we will not let your company go under. We will not let your company go under. Try and survive for 30 days and we got you. Those are relationships that don't come in a textbook for business 101, right?
Hmm.
That's just people 101. So when people often ask me, well, what's the success of your company? I said it lies in having great product, being on time, but also having extremely well crafted relationships with people who like who you are and they like your company because they won't let you fail. They
They
won't.
won't let you fail.
And I
That
learned that.
is
And I
that's
learned that working
testimony.
for the FDIC. I learned
Okay.
that working for Treasury. I mean, what
Okay.
person do you have, gets an opportunity to go and shut down banks across the country? And then I get a chance to see all these documents, hundreds of thousands of documents that I'm reading about deals that are going through. And they weren't deals that were based on black and white. They were deals that were based off of relationships with people.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned that hone relationships in business. Don't oversell. Just be a good person and have a great company and let people see who you are through your company. And things tend to line up that way.
My favorite quote that I'm quoted by is like, business is about relationships and turning those relationships into revenue. And
That's
it
right.
seems like you have been the epitome of doing that.
Yeah.
Let's go. So this phenomenal, phenomenal. Let's go back to, because I remember being at the ribbon cutting of your bakery. And
Yes.
I want folks to understand that story because that bakery had been there for years. Um, Jewish bakery,
That's right.
um, and right in the middle of the traditional Jewish neighborhood.
Yeah.
Tell folks about that story and why you made a decision to make that acquisition.
Yeah, so I wasn't in the market for buying a bakery at that time. I just knew that we were bursting out of our seams, and um, I start with the understanding that everything that we need comes our way. And most
Hmm.
people know that it's through divine intervention, and it's up for us to open our eyes and figure out if that's for me. And I was looking for a client to acquire a company on his behalf. And here goes this bakery that's posted. And the owner of the bakery, I'd like to think, wanted to keep the bakery in the hands of someone that was kosher.
Hmm.
We were not kosher. And he
Right.
did not know that, because what my secret weapon is that one of my sisters who works for my company, she works for a major food company and she does certifications in kosher. So she knows everything about kosher certification. So she could talk, and she knows all the rabbis.
Okay.
So we used all of that in our favor, to actually acquire that bakery. And when I acquired that bakery, it was because I wanted to go back home and I wanted to build jobs. And I wanted Baltimore to see that I didn't turn my back on them. I was home during the Freddie Gray riot, sitting in my home in Prince George's County, shaking my head and said, we got to do better than this. And I felt like I disconnected myself from the city. And it was
Hmm.
almost from a point of privilege that I was shaking my head. And I'm like, why are you shaking your head? How come you're not out there? And I said to myself, well, my my protest has never been on the front line holding a sign. It's been trying to increase revenue for people. So my protest was to open in Baltimore City to create jobs. So that was my gift to the movement, was
Hmm.
simply just to get in there and create jobs. It wasn't about becoming a kabillionaire. It was that, actually, I said, as long as I break even, that's all I care about, because in the front of our facility is retail. And when I say break even, I mean on the retail side. And on
Sure.
the back of our facility, it's all about manufacturing. You better be a net profit on that one, right? So that's how I ended up coming into Baltimore. And the reception that we got opening, I mean, we had over 500 people come in on a grand opening.
Hmm.
That's unheard of.
I know
We had the
it
president of
is.
Safeway come in, right? We had
It,
everyone.
and then I like folks to know that as part of your blueprint, that you also, if I recall correctly, you were also employing the previously incarcerated.
That's right. And we still do.
Hmm.
We
Okay.
still do. So I thought it would be amazing, because I'm a former prosecutor. And all of the people that I met in the prison system, they needed a chance, but they also needed to be accountable. So
Hmm.
I created a program around returning citizens. And some of the best employees that we have served.
Hmm.
One of them, he served 25 years in prison. And when I tell you, the sense of pride that he has in working for us, the honor that he has, the fact that we have to make him take off his t-shirt, his DC sweet potato cake, his baked in Baltimore t-shirt, is so funny, because he never imagined being behind bars that he would have a job that he shows up for every day, and then when he's off, he's there. He
Mm.
never imagined that, because he
Hmm.
never had a family. And although it's his work family, he considers us his number one family in life.
That's awesome.
That's impactful,
It
right?
is.
And
That
that's
is
why we opened Baltimore.
baked in Baltimore.
Baked in Baltimore, right on Ricetown Road.
I know. We got to go past there because the front end is retail. and have the best things yet. And then, are you going to be back on QVC anytime soon?
Yes, October 20th, we'll be back on air.
Oh,
October
okay.
20th. Yeah,
October 20th.
it's going to be a big show too.
Okay. DC sweet potato cakes. I'm looking at this website. I am April Richardson, baked in Baltimore. Culinary Partnerships. Tell me about that.
So I created Culinary Partnerships as a way to grow communities and strategically partner with developers in order to bring food opportunities to communities and deserts. So one of the projects that I have where I'm a lead consultant on is Baltimore City on the west side is getting its first food hall. So I am so excited about this, partnering with the nonprofit organizations NHS that's bringing this project to Baltimore. So they
Okay.
bring me on to help them figure out how to get great food vendors and how to communicate the food hall to the community, how to develop the food halls. I'm opening a retail bakery on K Street in DC. I
Okay.
was like, I want to be a brown girl on K Street in the heart of it all. So that'll open in October. And I'm actually purchasing.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Because K Street is definitely different.
Oh, it is so different.
It is so different. Okay.
And our other project that we're working on is I'm under contract to purchase land in Prince George's County to build a new food hall, a 15,000 square foot facility where we're looking for 15 new food vendors. Under my previous food hall, within 6 months, I was able to grow 5 new companies whose combined revenues were above $5 million. And these are entrepreneurs that started with $500 in their pocket. My
Hmm.
goal in life is to increase the visibility of African Americans and women in manufacturing. So, one of the rules that people have when they work with me is that they have to get a product that we can manufacture. The statistics show that in the bakery, I think there are 400,000 bakeries or something in the United States. Of the 400,000, 300,000 of them are cutesy retail bakeries whose revenues are under 500,000 and they're majority owned by women. But where the real money is on the manufacturing side. And when I saw those statistics, Sharon, and I saw that the manufacturers of baked goods, their revenues were upwards of 2 million or more. I said, I want to be on that side of the statistic. That's where I
Sure.
want to be. So that's
Sure.
why I decided to grow DC sweet potato cake bigger, and to start manufacturing because I wanted to be included in that statistic as a Black woman and as a woman and as a minority owned. So we received awards as the emerging leader in manufacturing, and we just received a top 30 manufacturer in the state of Maryland through the Daily Record because we're pushing it, right?
Yeah.
But we can't do it without sales. We
So,
can't do it without sales.
so if people want to know about, so you have the retail in Washington, in Prince George's County, you have retail in Baltimore. If people want to know where they can go to purchase your product, what do you tell them? How do we do that?
Yeah. So the easiest way is to go to our website, DC Sweet Potato Cake. You can also walk into your local Wegmans, Nordstrom's, Safeways, Starbucks, and ask for the product if you don't see it. And if you want to learn more about us and have a connection to all of the websites, then you go to IamAprilRichardson.com. And that leads people to all of our companies, including the business consulting side of it as well, because we get a lot of people in food who want to work with me to help them scale or determine if food manufacturing works for them.
Well, while you're in that bakery, figure out how to clone yourself. I mean,
I
we need
wish.
more April Richardsons in the world. Tell me about cakes for a cause rather, before we kind of wrap this up. I could talk to you forever. And
Yes.
if I don't say it, I am so very proud of
Thank
you
you. I
and all
appreciate
your
it.
accomplishments and all the things. I mean, and your heart, your knowledge, and that combination of your walking in your gifts. Phenomenal woman. So what's Cakes for a Cause?
So, Cakes for the Cause is our Give project, and it started, oh my gosh, maybe in 2015. I think we were fed up with all of the Black men being killed, and I think DC was having a protest or something, and
Mhm.
we could see all of the anger and the sadness. And my team and I got together and they were like, this is ridiculous. And they weren't focused that day. So I said, okay, everybody in the meeting, this is 9 o'clock in the morning. I said, you go to Staples and print this out. I love DC sweet potato cake. You go here,
Mm.
you go get this. And 4 hours later, we were in the middle of the march in DC handing out cupcakes. But people couldn't get a cupcake unless they said something sweet or they said something inspirational. So it was our way of putting sweetness into a conversation. So every major protest that comes through DC, Baltimore, Virginia, our cameras are there and we're giving out hundreds and hundreds and thousands of cupcakes to people for them to stop and just say something kind about life. So we ramped up Cakes for the Cause when we had downtime during the pandemic. So we didn't stop baking. Rather, we just baked for hospital workers, people that were on the front line fighting COVID. So we would show up at hospitals with hundreds of cakes and we would hand them out to the staff. And doing so had to be the most rewarding thing that I probably have ever done in my career because you saw the devastation in their eyes. But as soon as they got one piece of cake,
Absolutely.
they were so excited. And it's not like they couldn't afford cake on their own. It's not that they couldn't go and buy our product. It was because they knew that people cared about them and that our company had no money. But I wrote the check to make sure that I think we probably did about 5,000 products within 2 weeks to
Wow.
all the hospitals in our region. And that started us to just really give greater consideration to how beautiful it is to have people smile over something so cheap and so simple. So that's how Cakes for the Cause got its legs.
And it seems like, April, that maps back to your foundation that we started this conversation with. And I will personally be forever grateful. I found out doing 3 months ago at my most devastating time that you showed up and your sweet potato cake show up, and I was very grateful for that.
Absolutely.
I had no idea, and I was told that you sent it. So
Of
you're
course.
you're you're so sweet and so beautiful. And tell us about your son as we kind of wrap up.
Oh my
Your,
goodness.
your legacy, your legacy, and
Woo!
so
He
you were
eats me out
talking
of a
about.
house and a home. So I started by telling you that when I got involved in all of these things, I asked my son, was it okay? Because I raised my son on my own. And no matter what it is that I touch, I always ask him, is it okay for me to get involved? Because he knows that if I'm getting involved in something that takes just a little bit of time away from him. And I just remember taking him to meetings. He would dress up with his little suit on and bring his little briefcase, and he would get a chance to ask a question. And I would tell the people, he has a question, so he
Mhm.
would play little Mr. Businessman throughout all of these ordeals. And I would have him in the
Wow.
bakery testing. um, he is 18 years old. He's heading to college at 6'11". I think I told you, with a size 17 shoe and an appetite bigger than this world.
Yes.
And most people ask, like, what do you do for fun? And I have to tell you, when you work with the people that you like and you have a son that's terrific, that is fun.
Fun.
I
Yeah.
can't I can't say it any other way. That is fun. And
Hmm.
he's going off to college next month. So I don't know what that's going to be like. He just asked me not to pick up another job.
Oh
I was
no.
like, I'm not done
So
yet,
is he
son.
going out of state?
He's heading to Orlando. He's heading to film school in Orlando.
Oh wow.
So, and he begged me not to get a condo down in Orlando. I was like,
He
we
said,
could be roommates.
I know. So he said, leave him be. Leave him be.
So when I said that, he goes, no, mom, I'm sure there's about 18 other companies that you can go help.
What a legacy. What a legacy. I
Yeah.
know your family's proud of you as well. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you
This
so
does
much.
my heart. This does my heart good that you have agreed to come share all this great information. And we're gonna post that. You're gonna be on QVC. Tell us the date. We certainly make sure our network knows. Do you know the
So
date now? You said it's going to be
it's
when?
October 20th.
October 20th. We will remind our audience to do that. I enjoyed seeing you on QVC. That was
Thank
great. And
you.
I was like, I remember calling you. It's like I couldn't get. They sold out. I
Sold
couldn't
out.
get anything on QVC. But just wonderful,
But
wonderful, wonderful.
I will say this. My success isn't special. What we do is not special. It's not difficult because the price has been paid for people like me and women like you to do it. We are doing what we are supposed to. There's no
Hmm.
accolades that's necessary. We just have to remind people that we have to take care of each other because there was no water fountain that ever told me that I couldn't drink out of it. I never took a
Hmm.
water hose. So I'm simply just walking and doing exactly what I'm supposed to do. So it is easy. There are difficult days, don't get me wrong. But when I think about what other people did in order to give me this platform, I said, shut up and get it done with no excuses.
And ladies and gentlemen, that is a wise woman with humility, one of our best servant leaders ever. Thank you, April
Thank you.
Richardson. Thank you. Wow, that was breathtaking.
Thank you for
And
having me.
oh no, the honor is all ours. And so, as we, ladies and gentlemen, as we wrap this up, we thank you for another episode of Hot Chat. And we have some things that are kind of coming up that we want to tell you about, um, that that we want to make sure that you um, take advantage of. We have some CRMSDC continues to do a couple things. One, I want to tell you about. Let's see what's next. It's the golf tournament that's coming up on September the 21st. Our annual golf classic, the best business networking and golf experience. You want to be there. Let me tell you why. Not only do we try to, if possible, pair you up with our minority businesses playing with corporate members, but when you come off the green at the end, we like to set up lunch tables where you can have that conversation. We're going to be COVID safe. So come on out and support us as we try to raise money in support of our minority businesses. We also have some other things that are coming up. And what do we have next? I believe this is really important. As I have talked with April Richardson about what happened in the pandemic, we can't correct or help and support folks in this pandemic environment if we don't understand fully the impact. So we want to move forward and proactively provide those resources or create those resources in order to help our minority business in the future. So we were looking for 100 minority businesses to help us learn more about the impact the pandemic has had on your business. Registered now at crmsdccares.com. And so you can share the experience to help shape the future. We have some, before we do that, I'd like to also thank our sponsors again. We did some sponsors at the beginning, but listen to this list of sponsors who understand the mission and are part of it. AARP, AT&T, BAE Systems, Bank of America, BWI, Thurgood Marshall Airport, Dominion Energy, Ellison Group, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FRS, Horseshoe Casino, part of Caesars Entertainment, Ideal Electric, Leidos, Lockheed Martin, M&T Bank, the Marriott, McCormick, Metropolitan Washington Advisory, Airport Authority, MWA, Northrop Grumman, Peapod, Sodexo, Truist, the United States Postal Service, Washington Gas, the Metro, Washington Metro, WSSC Water, Wells Fargo, and Zillion Technologies. We have some other things going on as well. Continue to watch us or listen to us, our podcast on our Hot Sheet podcast. So continue to do that as well. We'd like to thank. We have some upcoming podcasts that are coming up. So stay tuned. We'd like to thank the CARES Act or Coronavirus uh, Response and Relief Team. It consists of our executive producer, Sonia Bigelow Smith, Latoya Moore, our graphic designer, Nicole Miles, our marketing coordinator, Jacob Brown, and the rest of the CRMSDC team, as well as Graybo Media producers, production extraordinaire, for their hard work behind the scenes to help us deliver the great content that we do and discussions for you. And look for us, ladies and gentlemen, on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube at CRMSDC, on all of our social media platforms. Thank you. I have had a wonderful conversation. So proud of April. And we will see you next time. Bye bye.